Welcome back to the True Body Intelligence Podcast. My name is Lee Maher, and I'm your host. And today's surprise is we're going to be getting into talking about the alignment, which is an essential element that I utilize when I work with people to be able to pull their brains back into balance electrically between the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. So tune in, grab a drink, get a little bit of food, sit down, and enjoy.
Christopher, we're back.
Hello. We're back in business.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's extremely exciting. And today we're going to be talking about the alignment between the left and the right hemisphere, the masculine and the feminine, all the polarities that exist and how they all connect to our healing, awakening, and true body intelligence. Yeah. So where do we start here?
I think first we got to give recognition to the people who created the alignment process, and it was developed by Dr. Chrane. Virgil was his son, Virgil Chrane, in Dallas, Texas, and then his son Michael was my teacher. And I use the alignment process in a very different way than they do. Like for me, it's an adjunct to what I do, and yet it allows me to do the most amazing work on the planet. And here's why. Every single human that you've ever met is locked into fight or flight. So your mom, your dad, your siblings, your partners, they're all in some level of fight or flight. So for me, every eighth of an inch that one of your legs is longer than the other, in the way that we do this process called teaching through testing, we lay you down on a table and we look to see which is more turned on and which is more turned off. And for every eighth of an inch, for me, that's one stage of fight or flight that a person's in. And then most people, when they come to see me, are about 1.5 inches to 1.75 inches out. Right? So that's 1.5 inches to 1.75 inches out. And if 1/8 of an inch is one stage of fight or flight, if they're 1 inch out, that means they're 8 stages deep, right? If they're 1.5 inches out, they're 12 stages deep. Okay, so you can see the impact that will cause electrically in the brain. So when a person is mentally well, right, or more mentally well than someone else, their brain is locked into an alpha state for a longer period of time. So my job, as I see it, is to get their brain in an alpha state as soon as possible. So then when we're doing the investigation, when we're giving the downloads, when we're doing all the other work that we do in True Body Intelligence, the shocking, the moshing, the eccentric strength, the Bestersize, I want to make sure that when they leave, the work that they're going to be doing on themselves will never cause their brain to go back out of alignment. And so what I discovered working with people is if I put you in alignment electrically, both hemispheres of your brain, through this process called the alignment, what's going to happen is the second I start digging into your body and we find some pain, and I release that pain out of your system, what's going to happen is your brain is going to go right back into fight or flight. So now the question is why? Because your brain has no idea of who you are without that stagnation, without that pain, without that tension, without that stress inside of you. And so it freaks out and it goes right back into fight or flight. But the coolest thing about this is the second I give you another alignment, your brain recognizes this as the new you. So instead of Susie 1.0, now we got Susie 1.2. Now you leave, you go home, you're doing the things that I taught you that we talked about, right? You're doing your exercise and your transmutations and your attunements, and you're fitting in your shocking medicine, and you're fitting in your body, your healing baths into your program. As long as I have put you in alignment before you left, your brain will do everything it can to maintain that state of alignment, meaning that your perceptual filters will look at the world through the perception of love. If you leave here out of alignment, your perceptual filters will look at the world through the prism of fear. And so getting someone in alignment, especially that first alignment, is going to be radically life-changing, because most people have never, ever, ever had the experience of being out of fight or flight. Imagine the kind of risk that you would take to your own benefit if you were in a whole brain thinking state, an alpha state, versus a fear-based fight or flight state. Imagine the risk that you would take. Imagine how much easier it would be for you to do things to your own benefit that are heartfelt. It gets a lot easier, right? So the alignment is a way of always bringing you back to you, but bringing you back to a better you. A you that your brain has never experienced since the moment you were formatted into who it is you are. Because all those deep, intense states of fight or flight that your nervous system has been tuned into, where did they come from? They came from your environment, and it came from your parents. Well, why do we say your parents? We say because in that precognitive state of function, your body is uploading your parents' unconscious and subconscious stress patterns, okay? And that means, when you're a child, grandmom's around, so you're uploading hers. If you're adopted, you're uploading theirs. Your siblings, you're uploading theirs as well. But the most impactful is mom and dad. Why? Because half the cells in your body are your mom's, and half the cells in your body are your dad's. And so whatever states of fight or flight they were fluctuating in and out of, guess what happened? They got projected into you, and then you believe that that's a normal state of function. So the best gift I feel that anyone can experience is to be able to get pulled out of fight or flight for that first time. It's like the first time you remember biting into a food that you enjoyed. Like maybe you remember the first time you're at a birthday party and you had your first bite of cake that you can remember when you were conscious enough to remember. It's a very powerful sensory experience to be dropped into a state of ultimate peace and absolute calm. And your mind goes quiet, right into the alpha state, right into the alpha state. Now, guess what's going to happen when you get up and you leave? You're going to back into the world, and what are you going to find? You're going to find that soon enough, you're going to be edging back towards that state of fight or flight. And the question is why? Because your body needs a few alignments and a few reminders to remember that, oh, this is a new state. And then once it gets locked into that state, it will help you maintain that state. And so the people that I work with, it might be 6 months till I see them. It might be 90 days till I see them again. And guess what? Their nervous system is still in peace and calm, and the majority of their brain is still in an alpha state. So it's wonderful to be in the alpha state when your brain is turned on, but the question is what really happens is it turns on the power in your body. So when your left hemisphere of your brain is turned off electrically, guess what happens to the right side of your body? The right side of your body gets weak. It gets passive. it gets longer, it gets disconnected. And guess what happens on the left side of your body? Because the right hemisphere of your brain is turned on electrically, it gets strong, it gets shorter, and it gets tighter. And so what we're looking for is neutrality. How can I possibly ever be in a state of neutrality if one hemisphere of my brain is turned on electrically and the other one is turned off more electrically, or is less turned on? It's an impossibility. So then that means that when I'm an inch out or an inch and a half or an inch and 3/4 out, I am locked into vested interest. And when I'm in vested interest, I'm without choice because I'm in emotional reaction state. Okay? In emotional reactive state, I have no power. I'm at the effect of life. Do I want to be at the effect internally of the things that are happening outside of me that have nothing to do with me? Absolutely not. I want to be able to maintain this deep inner state of peace. I want to maintain an extremely quiet mind. I want to maintain an intensely grounded emotional state. So everything's in chaos around me, and yet I'm holding the line so that those things that are in chaos can come back into natural order. And that's the benefit of having the alignment. So now you get your alignment. You're laying on the table. And now we start giving you attunements. So now your brain's lit up, both are lit up electrically, now you're doing attunement, right? Being the all that I am in this reality, right? Maybe you tune into that 36 times. And now your brain's both hemispheres are lit up, so you know the yin aspect of you, and which is the feminine aspect, and you know the yang aspect, the masculine aspect of your operating correctly. And now we're giving and engaging into this very specific vibration, which is an intent for you to increase your life expression by being all of who you are in this reality. And now your brain and your body and your emotions, they start to light up even more. While simultaneously they're lighting up more and you're getting more peaceful. They're lighting up more, you're getting more grounded. They're lighting up more, you're getting more comfortable. Right? They're lighting up more, you're feeling more alive, less dead.
So the question that comes to me is, if the alignment is so powerful,
yeah,
and so quick acting,
yes,
why do we need the daily routines? Maintenance?
Maintenance, well, remember you're evolving, right? So the alignment is relative to where you are. Now, if I remove 50% of your lifetime accumulated stress load, are you going to be in alignment or out of alignment?
Still not within alignment, because it's still 50%, right?
Well, now you're going to be out of alignment. Because remember, anytime I go into your body and help you reduce some level of pain and discomfort and stagnation and stiffness, your brain's going to go right back out of alignment. Because your brain has no recognition of who Danny is without this tension, stress, and distortion inside of you. So now it's freaking out again, and now your brain is back electrically into fight or flight. So now I want to put you immediately back in an alpha state. So if I'm developing myself, right, every day, every week, every month, I'm opening my body further, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting more present, then I'm moving into a higher elevated state. So now I need my brain to recognize 2.6 as the new me, right? So a month later, you're still developing yourself. So now you need another alignment.
I don't want to get too philosophical, but this comes to me pretty strongly. Isn't life itself already a form of this distortion of the perfect? Or this is okay because as long as you maintain it at its minimal form as life force emanating, Or are you saying that there's a way to drop to zero misalignment even in the physical form?
Meaning there's a way to drop out of, I guess what they would call it would be like energetic compression.
Okay.
And as you're dropping out of energetic compression, you're coming into more awareness and into a greater state of alignment with all that is. Okay? Yet when you're out of that state, which is 99.999% of all human beings are out of that state, you're doing everything you can to get into that state. And once you get into a basic state, a basic expression of alignment, well, guess what? Next week, there's another greater state. And so, let's say you have supreme alignment or absolute alignment, okay? Where most human beings are beginning before they have the first alignment is they're in absolute distortion, right? So the first alignment is getting their brain to remember, oh, we're actually supposed to be communicating together? Okay, yeah, okay, I remember 19 hours later. Who is this other hemisphere, right? Because you're building a new neural pathway, a new awareness. And so then you have to keep evolving. And as you keep evolving your body, as you keep evolving your emotions, as you keep evolving your spirit, you're operating differently. And then your brain needs to be able to recognize who it is you are now.
So,
because,
so the alignment is almost like a reminder for your being?
It's every alignment is now locking you into the new growth that you put in.
I see.
Okay, so let's say we had a bank account, okay? And in this bank account, I could put $1 million. Like $1 million is absolute financial freedom, okay? Well, if I have a bank account where I'm overdrawn by $400,000, in this analogy, that's where most humans would be energetically, okay? In terms of their alignment. When I put in my first deposit, right? So now I put 50,000 in. Well, I'm still 350,000 under. And then I put in my next deposit. I put in my next deposit. Well, guess what happens? Eventually, I reach neutrality. Well, there's neutrality, and then there's beyond neutrality, right? Which is ecstasy. Well, if I want to get into a greater life expression, as I keep developing myself, I need to have another installment, another level of alignment that locks in my bank account into a higher level. So now I get to that place where I'm in absolute financial freedom, which we could say $1 million, okay? Now, I'm financially free, so there's nothing for me to be thinking about, to be worrying about as it comes to finances, because I've developed myself to the nth degree. But when you first start getting your alignments, you're allowing your brain to prioritize what is desiring to be governed that is out of control and chaos. Okay? So as you do that, what's going to happen? You get another alignment, boom, now you bring a higher level of order. But that high level of order, is that the highest level of order? No, not in a million years, right? But next month, I got a higher level of order. And out of a higher level of order, right? So let's say when David was being carved by Michelangelo, right? He was like, this looks good. And he went to sleep. And he woke up in the morning, he was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And he went back to work, right? And then he buffed, he sanded, he polished, he carved, he buffed, he sanded, he polished, he carved. He said, okay, I'm happy with this. Brings his wife down. What do you think? This looks great. He goes, okay, I'm going to put a cover over it. I'm going to look at it in a month. Right? Comes back in a month and he's like, oh no, this is off, right? So he kept refining. So you got to buff, polish, and sand. But when you buff, polish, and sand, and then you get an alignment, you lock in all your good effort. so that you never take a step backwards, right? So I'm either here, which is at neutrality, or I'm moving more towards ecstasy, right? So you're never going back. So the alignment allows me to lock in all the transformation and the good work that I have put into myself. So when my people come to see me and I go to work on them, we're never back where we were. Even if they're gone for 5 years and I come and see them, I get into their body, I'm like, oh, your body kept advancing. This is amazing. Why? Because they're going to be behaving in a different way. And when I behave, when I express high functioning psychological, emotional, spiritual, instinctual qualities, what happens is my body no longer manifests the tension, stress, and distortion that it did from expressing and engaging in low functioning psychological, emotional, energetic, spiritual, and instinctual action. So we use the alignment process to guarantee that once I reach 2.2 in my development, I never go back to 2.1, or I never go back to 1.8. I never go back to the beginning. Now we get to lock in your development. And every day forward, from that day forward, you will be operating, let's say you achieve your like 3.8, you put in a couple years or a couple months, you're really motivated. Now guess what? Does that discomfort, does that stiffness, do those things that used to happen in your body, do they come back to you? No, of course. It's an impossibility. Because your brain is going to do every single thing that it can to make sure that you stay hardwired into the last stage of development that you reached from the last alignment. And now, once you get that alignment, your brain's now reprioritizing again. It's saying, okay, oh, well, look what's over there in that corner. Well, I had no idea that's dusty over there. Where'd that come from? Okay, so as you develop more, your brain can see more of the subtle details that are out of balance, right? So now we start getting into micro level development. Micro level development is exponential development. Even though it looks smaller, it's actually more impactful, because it means that you can draw greater and more subtle distinction. And if I can draw greater and more subtle distinction, I make better decisions. If I make better decisions, I have better life expression. I have better use of my resources. I have better use of my skills. I have better use of my relationships. I have better use of my money. I have better use of my positional leverage politically. I'm in a better position in everything, because I can make greater and more subtle distinction, which means I have great value to my community. Why? Because now I have access to a level of wisdom that's outside of their frame of reference. And now when they get that wisdom from me and I share it with them, they now can meet me in this new place. And now we can co-create something even more powerful.
So this is something that then becomes a collective effort versus a personal effort, but it becomes that overtly. It becomes obvious on the surface.
Yes, because see, all nervous systems vibrate to the highest functioning nervous system in a collective field. Well, what does it mean? It means that who's ever in the highest state of growth and alignment draws everyone towards them to allow them to benefit from their development, dual cultivation. Okay? So when I'm out of alignment, am I benefiting people as much as I can? No. Because now when I'm out of alignment, I have to orientate to where they are. Do I want to orientate to where they are if they have a inferior state of consciousness that they're expressing through their behavior? No. Because what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be harming the station that I created. I'm going to be taking a step down, or I'm going to be taking a step back. And I want to keep moving the needle forward, because guess what? This whole thing is connected. And if it's all connected, what does it mean? It means that when I get into a greater state of alignment, you as well get into a greater state of alignment. And when you get into a greater state of alignment, guess what happens for me? I get into a greater state of alignment. And now the world becomes a better place, because we're inching towards supreme, absolute alignment. Alignment with what? With God's grace. And when I'm in alignment with God's grace, do I have to compete with what's already been lived? Do I have to argue with anyone? Do I have to spend my time convincing people? Do I have to doubt? Do I have to be in fear? Do I have to be in depression? Do I have to feel hopeless? Do I have to suppress my desires, my wants, and my needs? Do I have to disconnect from others to feel myself? No, I'm in absolute alignment. So now I'm connected to all things simultaneously and able to access all of the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual intelligence that's inherent within me. And now I'm operating out of a state of normality rather than abnormality, right? Like, what's abnormal to the spiritual human condition is anxiety. That's an abnormal state of being. What's a normal state of being for a spiritual human, right? Excitement. Okay? What's an abnormal state of function? Fear. What's a normal state of function? Confidence. What's an abnormal state of function? Anger. What's a normal state of function? Love. So when I'm in those states, when I'm expressing those states, I already know I'm out of alignment relative to the environment that I'm in, right? Relative to the environment that I'm in. Because every environment has its own collective will, has its own collective awareness. You know, we've gotten to the philosophical, and so it's deeper, so the question has had value. Yet the most important thing to remember is that a canary is green wherever it goes. And so when I'm in supreme alignment, I bring that alignment with me. And I lend it to you. See, if you go to school and you study medicine, or you study law, or you study astronomy, okay? Or you study art. Well, if you're really studious and you develop yourself for 20, 30 years, guess what you get to lend me? You get to lend me all of your insight, your skill, and your wisdom. And now what happens to my life? My life gets increasingly better because of my association and my connection to you. So through dual cultivation, right, we grow together. Well, how are we going to grow through dual cultivation if I'm supremely out of alignment and you're supremely out of alignment? We limit the potential possibilities that want to be experienced. And now, rather than being at infinite choice, I'm at fixed choice. And so the alignment process is the fastest way to get out of fight or flight. And yet there's these other elements that have to take place in order for us to be able to maximize life expression, maximize the inherent intelligence, maximize our impact. And so how are we going to do that? We're going to calm you down. We're going to turn on both hemispheres of your brain electrically. We're going to turn on your emotional body, which is what we're going to get into next. So there's no surprises, no mysteries. We're going to get into the emotional intelligence and what would be the next eventual step that you would take in order to help another human being develop themselves. So the alignment process is essential. And regardless of what kind of practitioner you are, whether you're a Reiki practitioner or a dentist or a surgeon or a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or a speech pathologist, right? Getting the people that you're working with in alignment, meaning both hemispheres of their brain are operating correctly electrically, gives you a distinct advantage. And what I mean by that is that your clients will heal and grow and perform better than everyone else's, by far. In fact, the measure of the distance between you, yours is exponential growth and theirs is change. So if you're going to invest your time, your energy, your efforts, your resources, would it be more prudent to invest in exponential change and true transformation, right? Exponential
Obviously.
growth? Or, do you want to dabble and mess around? I mean, I've been fortunate enough because I've been a seeker, I've been an investigator, I've operated with scientific principle to test and evaluate what works and what has very little value. And so I've stripped this all down and I've put this together in a way that produces a verifiable result every single time. Okay? And can be performed by a trained monkey. All right? So I think this is probably a good place to complete.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's a few questions that I wanted to raise, but I think I will save them for the next one, because the emotional body is a perfect place to ask it with.
Yes. That's where the juice is. Like, of course, do we want to turn on both hemispheres of the brain electrically? Yeah, but what do we really want? We want access to that magnetic pulse, right? That woof, 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 woof. And now we got a driver. And we got a driver, meaning we have an engine under the hood for our car, right? It's nice to put the electrical system in, all those wires. It's wonderful. But that car is going nowhere without an engine. And the emotions, right? The desires, the wants, the needs, the will. That's the driver for maximizing and experiencing what it is you've been imagining in your mind, or what you've been told has value, right? So when we turn on the emotional body, we turn on the engine. Actually, we'll turn on the engine. We put an engine in your car and then we turn it on full power. And once that's operating at full power and your will is fully engaged, how can you ever be stopped from what it is you want to experience? Well, let's go the inverse of that, right? Well, if there's no motor underneath the hood, it's great. You got the electrical system and the battery, but how are you going to get to the market, right? So the emotional body would then be analogous to the engine. And both hemispheres of the brain operating electrically would be relative to the electrical system inside of your car.
Any final words on this part of the conversation?
Any final words? Get on the internet, find someone who is an alpha bioticist, and get yourself alignments on a semi-regular basis to start to allow your brain to exist in an alpha state the majority of the time. So you can get deep, restful, fourth stage regenerative sleep and become highly intelligent and maximize your life expression. Yeah. Maximize your life expression, right? That's the key. It's short. It goes by fast, I can tell you. I'm approaching 60. And I'm thinking, where did the last 20 go? Everything I do when I think back, everything that I've ever experienced that was of value to me feels like it happened yesterday, right? Because in spirituality, there's a concept out there called all time is now, right? So if all time is now, it means that once you get on the True Body Intelligence program, guess what's going to happen for you? Because all time is now, it means that once you're doing this work, all the time before you began the work is also being affected. Now that's powerful, and that's something to tune into. Thank you for tuning in to today's content. This will be made available in its full form of everything we put together for you at truebodyintelligence.com. And at truebodyintelligence.com, you can tune into my book, Free for Life, a U.S. Navy SEAL's unique journey to inner freedom and outer peace. And there I will teach you at a much deeper level. And this will be really, really, really good reference tool for you. Plus, the audiobook has an opportunity to allow you to start the program already by purchasing the one with the energetic integrations, and that will help you get started. All of this content will also be available on all major platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, and YouTube.